Howdy, YouTube. This is Steven, and I want to share an article that I ran across on the internet. And it's an article that relates to anthropology and American history. All right, so the title is Substituting Anthropology for American History is Wrong Headed. Never heard of the word wrong headed, so it's always nice to expand your vocabulary. All right, but this was an article published by the Sacramento Bee, and it is by an author by the name of Joseph A. Palermo. So there you have it. All right, so I'm going to read the article, and I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions as I go, and as well talk a little bit more after I finish reading the article. So here we go. In recent years, the public has known. Uh, In recent years, the public has shown a keen interest in how American history is taught. We've seen efforts by state governments in Oklahoma, Texas, Indiana, North Carolina, and other states to influence the U.S. history curriculum at taxpayer funded schools and universities. In 2012, then GOP presidential candidate Rick Santorum claimed that public universities in California had ceased teaching American history altogether. And the last time California State University, Sacramento threatened to water down its U.S. history requirement, the Sacramento Bee editorial board penned a clear condemnation titled CSU Sacramento needs to make history a priority. In May 2012, um, let's see. All right. Yet last month, a handful of Sacramento state administrators and like-minded faculty voted to approve a cultural anthropology course as a suitable substitute for a foundational American history general education requirement that has served CSUS students commendably for decades. That is strange. I don't know why would they want to substitute cultural anthropology. Well, why would they want to substitute American history for cultural anthropology? After all, anthropology would be the study of humanity, while history, particularly American history, would be the study of historical events in America, in the United States. So I don't know, that's a bit strange that they would do that, in my opinion. I don't know where that's coming from, unless I guess it's to save money. But yeah, I guess some history professors are going to be out of some jobs. You know, it sounds like. Let's see. Next, all of my colleagues among the historians at Sacramento State believe the subject matter of the new introductory quote unquote history course fails to give students an adequate grasp of the significant events and personalities that have shaped U.S. history over the past 100 years and violates the spirit of a California code, Title 5, 40404, which establishes American history as a G.E. priority for CSU students. So I'm guessing GE is general education priority. All right, so basically, folks got an issue because it's like they think that this is violating the state law, basically. You know, this has to be taught. At least, I guess, yeah, by an educational institution, you have to have this course. But I guess they're like, oh, saying, well, anthropology, cultural anthropology, and American history are pretty much the same thing. Ooh. All right. Next, the new introductory history course leaves out, among other things, the Progressive Era, World War One, women's suffrage, the Great Depression, FDR, the New Deal, World War Two, McCarthyism, the Cold War, the Korean War, the nuclear arms race, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the JFK assassination, Freedom Summer, the United Farm Union Workers Union, the Vietnam War, Stonewall, Watergate, second wave feminism, the Iranian hostage crisis, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Gulf War, globalization, the 9/11 attacks, and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And one thing that I noticed in this whole thing right here, they listed a lot of events, of significant events in kind of like 20th century American history. But they left out the civil rights movement and Brown versus the Board of Education. You know, they left out that. And where I'm getting at is, I guess now European Americans can know how it feels to have your history ignored and not really taught and glossed over, you know? Because I know some Asian Americans are like, hey, where's our contribution to American history? And then some Hispanic Americans are like, hey, where's ours? And African Americans are like, hey, what about this significant event that involved a lot of African American people? Like, we're a part of America too. So now European Americans can kind of have a feel for what that is like, you know, have a taste of being ignored by the history books, you know. So, you know, inequality for all, you know, I think that's, you know, ultimately what we all strive for, right? Inequality for all. All right, next. Swapping an anthropology course for American history will leave our freshmen and sophomores little understanding of how American institutions have changed throughout time. Well, through time. How events such as World War I and II transmuted those institutions and how the historical context altered the balance of power between the branches of the federal government and contributed to the rise of the United States as a global superpower. So basically, you won't be able to know how awesome the United States is by taking an anthropology course. You know, you have to take an American history course to know how awesome the United States is, you know? And again, there's no mention of in this case, no mention of anything about women or ethnic people. But well, you know, what else is new in American history? What else is new? Right. For most Sacramento State students, this 15-week general education requirement will be the only American history class they'll take in their lives. Possibly. That is possibly true, unless you're going to major in history. Let's see. Many of our students are the first in their families to attend college, so it can't be assumed that they've been exposed to U.S. history at home. That is true. And it's good to learn about the history of the United States, you know, as long as what you're learning is the true history and not some watered down version, you know, or some glossed over version of history, then yeah, it is good to know about the history of where you live, the country where you live. And I don't agree with that, you know, them switching, you know, subbing cultural anthropology for American history. All right, next. When they arrive on campus, many of our freshmen and sophomores need some form of remedial education, which means we cannot assume that American history classes taken at the high school level were sufficient. That is true. Those high school level classes do not be sufficient. They're just trying to get you out of there. You know, the high schools, they're just trying to push you out. You are now the state's problem. Well, the legal system's problem, you know. Not the educational system's problem anymore. All right, next. Also, given the fact that many Sacramento State students come from immigrant families, these students might uniquely benefit from a foundation in their general education on the basis of U.S. history and civics. All right, so apparently a lot of students who attend Sacramento State are from, I guess, immigrant families, I guess. I don't know the demographics. I don't have that information, so I can't say yay or nay. But they're assuming that they don't know about U.S. history because they're immigrant families. But to be fair, sometimes you do have to. That doesn't necessarily mean they don't know, you know. But I guess that's the assumption. Let's see. And plus, to get U.S. citizenship, you do have to learn about American history. But on to the next. In my classes, I've had many students over the years who suspended their educations to go abroad and serve in the U.S. military, or who are combat veterans. These students deserve a public university that delivers a U.S. history requirement that does not airbrush out the major wars of the 20th century. I agree with that. But again, welcome to inequality. European Americans, welcome to inequality. And it's good that you're able to have sort of a taste of what it feels like to have your history just airbrushed as if it didn't happen, just glossed over as if it wasn't really significant, or the contribution wasn't significant, So again, welcome to inequality. Right. Next, surveys consistently reveal Americans' acute lack of fundamental historical knowledge, even among educated people. Voter turnout numbers for young people are dismally low. In the June primary, only 3.7% of California voters aged 18 to 24 participated. This cluelessness and apathy speak to the crying need in the state for history and civics education. Not necessarily. Voter turnout was probably low because people don't really feel like their vote matters or really counts. It's just a waste of time to vote, not necessarily because they weren't educated in American history. And that probably speaks to the fact that sometimes politicians just don't really have anything that can appeal to voters as far as their policies are concerned, and as well, maybe they just feel like everything is a-okay as it is, so why do I need to vote, So I don't necessarily agree with that. All right, next. All these factors raise the question, what is the value educationally for our students in asserting that an anthropology course taught by non-historians that ignores major events that transformed the United States can now fulfill the American history requirement? So what's the value educationally? Well, this isn't about educational value. This is about financial value. They're trying to save money, pretty much. And that's what happens a lot of times in not only business, well, not only schools, but also businesses, kind of like consolidation, just making things more concentrated. Or that's probably not the word, but removing some things and, well, downsizing. That's the word. That's probably a better word. Downsizing. Businesses do it, and I'm guessing educational institutions are doing it. But usually, I guess we would expect an educational institution to do it in the form of, say, removing a department, versus, I guess, doing something like this, which is kind of like subbing a course for another course. But to be fair, that may have been the reason why they're subbing a course for another course, because the department has been downsized or removed. Next, this aggressive push to strip the professional historians at Sacramento State of influence over the introductory course in their own discipline has pitted departments against each other. Academic game warfare coming up. Lowered faculty morale and undercuts the reasons or reasoning behind paying higher salaries to people who hold PhDs, only to have their expertise dismissed in favor of narrow administrative goals. All right. So basically, historians at Sacramento State are like, "Hey, what's up? We ain't really having a say in the introductory courses." They're like, "Where we at in all this?" And that is kind of strange. You spend all your time earning this PhD, and you're thinking, "Okay, this is what I need to be able to be inside this elite group." But the elite group has had their, I guess, elite status and power sort of taken away, or at least checked and regulated. So yeah, I can understand why some historians are, a little peeved about that. All right, next. Surely there are other ways we can help students graduate quicker than gutting the American institution requirement. Hiring more full-time faculty, counseling staff, and scheduling more sections of so-called bottleneck courses would be a good first step. But substituting the American history general education requirement with Marxist anthropology is not a good idea. How is anthropology about Marxism? Okay, so this person obviously is trying to take a little stab at anthropology here. Because it was about cultural anthropology, not Marxist anthropology, So right there, they're already trying to like throw in some things there and like, okay, this is the bad thing. Which, anthropology is not bad. American history is not bad. It just, it just needs to be taught better. But I guess they're kind of lashing out at anthropology. Anthropology is getting sort of some criticism now. All right, next. CSUs are supposed to reflect the character and need of their local communities. And given that Sacramento State is a public university located in the state capital, there at least should be a public debate about this wrong-headed move. And CSUs stand for California State Universities. And let's see, Joseph A. Palermo is a professor of history at California State University, Sacramento. So that's the end of the article, and I'll speak a little bit more. Okay. So this is a bit random. I'm surprised they would even consider anthropology as the sub for American history. I thought they'd probably go with something a bit more popular, like, say, sociology, or even like a literature type of course, maybe. But yeah, they're doing, they're subbing cultural anthropology or anthropology for American history. And, big ups to anthropology for stepping into the forefront here. But that's a bit weird. I don't really agree with that. I don't think that should happen. But on the other hand, I guess in my own way, it is sort of like nice to see, well, not nice, but it's like, okay, at least you can kind of know how it feels to have your history and your contributions glossed over and airbrushed, specifically to European Americans when they wanted to mention, all these different significant things that happened in the 20th century. And these significant things ultimately correlate to European Americans, Caucasian Americans, white Americans. And that has been a criticism from POCs for a while about American history. So in that aspect, yeah, it is nice to see that, hey, you can finally kind of know where we're coming from here. Possibly, even though you may not want to know where we're coming from, yeah, you can kind of know where we're coming from here. Where it's like, just like, whoa, like, where are we? Like, where we at? in American history, you know. But yeah, I don't agree with this and what they're doing. I think ultimately the students are losing out, and they're probably still paying the same amount, if not more, for this education, you know. So again, higher education is lacking. What else is new, right? What else is new? And as well, I hope that anthropology doesn't get a bad rap for this. You know, people have a negative attitude toward anthropology because, you know, anthropology is something that should be kind of like advocated for to an extent, or at least an option for people, you know. But it seems like they're sort of trying to maybe push anthropology on people, you know, for some reason. But yeah, so to, you know, Caucasian Americans, welcome to the Inequality Club here. You know, welcome to what POCs experience when it comes to American history. It's just like, hey, where we at? You know, where's our contributions to American history? I mean, and even the contributions that they did mention are kind of like just, they're important. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are important, but it's like, you know, it's about basically warfare. A lot of them, like World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the nuclear arms race. Like, you know, American is, you know, I guess about. And it makes it seem like well, I guess it is kind of true, um, but it seems like the war is significant. But I guess it is. Well, war is significant for American history. And don't get me wrong, it is good to know about these events, you know, because they do, they are the reason why we are in the place that we are today as far as the country is concerned. So I'm not going to totally dismiss those things, but you know, you notice though, like how many of these things directly, even in some form, relate to POCs? And we have one thing that directs to women, which is women's suffrage. Um, so maybe it would have been cool to have something that relates to other folks' issues too. But as you guys know, the winners write history. Remember that. Whenever stuff like this come up, remember the winners write history. And you know who were the winners in these situations? Think about it. All right. That's all I got for the time being. Feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Your feedback and support are extremely appreciated and extremely valued. Until the next news article analysis, adios and goodbye for now.